This is episode 40 of my crochet vlogcast, podcast, chat type thing. I am Rosina and I am a crochet designer and general crochet fanatic, coming to you from a sunny southwest of the UK. It's very nice out there today. How are you? You alright? I'm doing okay. A little bit manic, I have to say. Things have been going a little bit bonkers, and yeah, I'm crocheting all the things, and there's no let up. I am not stopping yet, but it does mean that it might be a bumper episode. We'll see. I'm going to try and flash through a few things, be selective, and pick and choose what I talk about in a bit more detail, so that you're not bombarded with stuff that you're not that interested in. I don't know. I'm just going to talk about stuff I'm interested in, if that's okay. I've got a new jumper on, which includes, interestingly enough, bold horizontals. You'll know what that means if you've heard me talk about the Mount Tremper sweater, which I have done a few times. So instead of like avoiding it at all costs with my handmade jumper, I go to a shop and buy one immediately. Hey ho, I like this, it's nice, isn't it? Tesco's, it's nuts, look at those sleeves. Lovely. Crochet inspo, yeah? Right, okay. So I'm going to start with just a few kind of things that I could just tick off my list, because otherwise I think we'll be here for a long time. So let me try and just speed through just a couple of things, not quite housekeeping, but I just wanted to remind you that I do indeed have a spider pattern for free on my blog, and it also is a video tutorial on YouTube. This is a giant version made in t-shirt yarn, but I have made teeny tiny spiders that are perfect house spider size in DK and Aran weight yarn in the past. I'm not going to make any more this year. I've got enough. I've got several elsewhere, but I just thought I'd mention him, and I'll put the link in the show notes to where you can find the pattern for that, because I really like him. I don't know. I think it's cool. It's a good spider, isn't it? So that's item number one I can tick off my list. Then, I've forgotten all the things I was going to tick off my list. Just a reminder that Havana Nights is on Ravelry, Etsy and lovecrochet.com as a pattern. It hasn't got a discount on Love Crochet, so you probably don't want to buy it from there. But it's got a discount on Ravelry and Etsy, so you get 20% off. I think it's 11 pages of pattern and information. So that's Havana Nights now, boom, out. As is Harvest Moon. I've only got this one to show you. I haven't got the 3-colour stripe to show you again, but that's episode 37, I believe, that I showed the 3-colour large version. This is out now. I released it yesterday, and the pattern looks something like that. That's me, and it's got noughts and crosses on the back because I played with one of the kids, and a list of things to do. But this is just a, I always print out the first draft, go through it and stuff like that. Pictures, charts, the written instructions, stitch count, all the usual things you find in a pattern. It's fully tech edited and tested. I want to say thank you very much to the people that tested it, because they have been marvellous. Not everyone has finished, but there are a couple of people who have put their versions on Ravelry on the project page already, which is awesome. And if you make it, please add it to Ravelry, because that's brilliant. I need you to add it to Ravelry so that people can see how it works up in other colours and other yarns and all that jazz. The pattern is my first pattern where I have got a UK version and a US version, so that when you buy it on Ravelry, both are downloaded. A US version and a UK version are downloaded at the same time when you hit buy, which is pretty good, isn't it? And there are 4 options. There's a big stripy, big 2-stripe, little 2-stripe, big 3-stripe, little 3-stripe. So, I mean, what more could you possibly want from a pattern? A 20% discount perhaps? That's happening for the next 2 weeks. Go check it out. Links will be in the show notes for this episode. But I feel like that's tick, tick, tick. That's 3 things ticked off my list. Not a metaphorical list, an actual list. And let me tell you, I have had a blinking nightmare. A blinking nightmare with that Harvest. No, not Harvest. Harvest Moon was a breeze. It was a dream. Beautiful. I love it. But Havana Nights, crikey. Did you see? I uploaded this to Ravelry, and people started buying it straight away. It was quite possibly the fastest selling pattern I've ever released on Ravelry, and I didn't expect that at all. But unfortunately, what happened was PayPal decided that either that was weird, the fact that so many people bought it so quickly, or the name of the pattern triggered some kind of security check. I just don't know what happened, but everybody who bought it in the first 24 hours, because then I had to stop it to prevent more sales not going through, everyone that bought it got an email to say that the designer, me, had to approve each purchase of this pattern, which was nonsense because I didn't have to approve it. What message I was getting was that PayPal had halted transactions of Havana Nights because they wanted to. No reason, no actual reason was given. I still don't know why they halted the transactions, but eventually the people that bought it started getting their patterns. Up to about 3 days later it would arrive in their inbox. That's all sorted now, that doesn't happen anymore. But every single sale it was happening for, and I tested it maybe 36 hours later, and one went through or something like that. So I was like, oh, excellent, it's working again. And then I put it back up for sale. And lo and behold, the next few people that bought it, the payment pending thing happened again. But they got their patterns quicker. It was a nightmare. It made me very stressed. I had a mini breakdown. I did not enjoy it at all. What was supposed to be a really exciting fun time, i.e. the start of the C2C Cal, because it all happened on the very first day of the Cal, which was last Sunday. Sunday before. Oh my goodness, has it really been nearly 2 weeks? Wow. So it all happened. It was a little bit overwhelming, and on the Monday sent the kids off packing to school and just sat there and went blah. I actually cried, like proper sobby cries, and I have not cried for years. I don't cry, I'm not a crier at all, not really. I mean, occasional like glisteningly wet eyes sort of tears, but not actual gushingly, you know, physical bleh crying. Apart from when I found a dead cat outside, I remember I did cry then, but that's because I didn't know whose cat it was and I had to deal with it, and I ended up driving it to a vet because I didn't know what else to do with it. The owners were on holiday, it was awful. I cried then, but that's the only other time I can remember crying, like the last 5 years. Other than, you know, sad things like funerals. Yeah. Wow, you didn't need to know any of that. I could have just told you. It was released and all was fine and dandy. It was a nightmare. I even tried to change the name of it to see if that would work, but I changed it to Missile Crisis, which husband said was probably no better a title if you're trying to avoid security checks. So that backfired. It got sorted in the end. That's what counts. Next up, I think I want to talk about finished objects. I don't know how many I've got. 1, 2 and a half. Is that all? That doesn't sound like very many, does it? 1, 2 and a half. Oh, well, shall I start with this one first, seeing as you can see it? To the blanket. It's quite it's like a toddler or a baby blanket size. I've written a blog post about it, which I put up this morning. So rather than me tell you the whole story about me sitting in a car and doing car crochet, go ahead, go over to the blog and have a read. It's a very quick blog post. There's not a lot of words, but I've called it ZZ Block. It is inspired by the decor of my boy's bedroom. There's a photo in the blog post, which I'll link to as usual. It was a very, very quick make. I made it last weekend, like literally started it Friday night, finished it Sunday night. It was done so quickly. It's very small, so a baby blanket can be knocked up in no time. And I think it's well jazzy. I posted a picture of it yesterday on Instagram, and lots of people liked it, so that's good. And I realised that probably I shouldn't have posted a picture of it, because then people wanted the pattern. And I hadn't written it up. All I had was a chart, and when I made this I actually went off-piste and thought at one stage I was at a corner and started decreasing to turn it into a rectangle and ultimately finish it. I hadn't double checked my chart, and I started doing that. I wasn't at the corner, I started doing it far too soon, because it would have taken about half an hour to frog and redo for the sections that I'd gone wrong in. I decided I don't want to go back and do it again. I'd already gone wrong twice already and sort of put my colour blocks in the wrong order. It's very hard because I was in the car, as I said. Did I say? I say it in the blog post. And so it's not quite the same as being organised and all spread out at home. I was all scrunched up and confident, falsely confident that I was doing it right. It wasn't until later I realised, and then by that point, no. My point, therefore this pattern is 4 rows, I think 4 rows shorter than it should be, and therefore I couldn't sort of officially write a real pattern for it because I didn't have a proper sample to take photographs of. Because another change I've made is just changes to the width of this bit here. I've just added on some rows to make it easier to do and make it more visually pleasing to me. I mean, it looks quite nice like that, but I know that I want it different because it will be better. What I've done is released instead the charts. There are no written instructions in this document at all. I've got a photograph of that blanket and I have explained the differences between that and the chart. I've also got a page of guff about approximate measurements and yarn quantities needed, and my notes and guidance for general C2C'ing without explicitly going chain 6, make 1 treble into the 4th chain from the hook, la la la, row 1, row 2, row 3. I haven't done any of that because if you've got a chart for C2C and you've done C2C before, you don't need those instructions. They're always all the same. And if you haven't got one of my other patterns, which you could refer to, it's pretty much guaranteed that you can find how to sort of generic C2C patterns for free elsewhere online. So basically, although it's still 5 pages long, but I've got a chart for ZZ block and also a bonus secret chart, a chart called Ziggy. So there are 2 charts, some photographs and some advice on sort of C2C and how to follow this should you wish to make it. Excuse me. Because it's only a chart, it's only a couple of quid. And then because it's a C2C and because it's still the C2C Cal for another month, it's got 20% off. So it's hardly any money at all, really. So that's finished object number 1. Kind of bumped straight to the top of the list somehow. A week ago I didn't know I was going to make it. What day is it today? It's Friday today. So okay, a week ago I probably did know I was going to make it because I started last Friday. But like the day before I had no idea. It was like literally it's like boom, I'm going to make this and I'm going to make it now. And so that's what I did. Yeah, it bumped itself to the top of the list and it bumped down a few things, including a couple of my whips, which I'll talk about in a minute because I haven't finished objects, have I? No. Finished object number 2 is a sock. Let me take my slippers off. Num nuts. Oops. Here you go. Socks. Crochet socks. And I made up the pattern. Do you want me to take them off? Should I take them off? You probably can't see. There you go, look. Pretty nifty, hey? I made their toe. I made them from the toe. Did a little bit of shaping at the toe. Then some half trebles. Left a space for the heel, and then just worked up. Hang on. And did some colours and some FPBP. Do you know, they were so easy. So easy. I was thinking about doing a pattern, writing it up. Here you go. They're slipper socks really. I wouldn't wear them in shoes. Perhaps a Wellington boot you could wear them in, but I'm really rather pleased with those. They work up in next to no time. You can make 1 sock in less than 2 hours if you're not distracted by television or Instagram. And it fits perfectly. I don't know if that's a coincidence or what, but I'm amazed. And the fact that, you know what, they're really comfy. I found it really funny. On Instagram I've seen a load of people taking part in the sock along that's happening. And a lot of people are saying I don't know if they'd liked socks to begin with or if they're really looking forward to making socks, but they're all going nah. Frogging that is awful. They don't like the socks. They're not working up nicely. They're not, I don't know, they're not fun to make, and when they make them, they don't feel right. And for months, if not years, I've been going, crochet socks suck, they're awful. And then I make a pair and I go, oh, actually, these are quite nice. Oh dear. And also, because I've only, before this, before the last few weeks, I'd only ever made one pair of crochet socks. I'd made them in double knit and probably quite a gnarly yarn, hard, you know, rough yarn. So it's unsurprising that I found them uncomfortable. In the last 2 weeks I've made this pair of socks, and I've made another sock, which is my half finished object and is beautiful. I don't know where I put it. I made my sock using 5 Moons yarns, which I got from Yarndale a couple of weeks ago, and it is relatively local to me, which is good. I can add it to my collection of local yarns. And I made Deanne's Segway socks. I don't know what I've done with the, I printed out the pattern, I've put it over there. Aren't they lovely? I don't know if you'll be able to see the detail, but I will put a picture in my show notes so you can see. These socks are a little bit more complicated than the ones I made up. The construction is far more sophisticated, allowing it to be more of a real sock than just a tube you put on your foot. I haven't sewn in my ends yet, so I haven't sort of been able to tidy up my join. But oh my goodness, they feel so beautiful. The yarn is beautiful and the pattern is ace. So it's Deanne's design. Deanne is the designer behind Addy Day Designs. She's got a few designs for socks, or a couple, and then another one coming soon. But they're just lovely. I did a test crochet for Deanne, so this is a brand new release. They're so squishy, it's so nice. I put one on. I put it on. I've only made one. So I did a test crochet, and honestly, when you get the pattern you go, crikey, that's a lot of information, I'll never be able to make these, that's so many words. Don't worry about that at all, I promise, it's fine. The pattern is so beautifully written that when you take it each stage at a time, you do stage one, you go, yeah, done. And then you move on to the next one. And when you look at, if you open it up 2 pages in or whatever, and you go, what, gusset? Mini gusset? What is this? Oh no, heel, that looks complicated. Ignore all that, push that to the side, just do your toe first. Worry about the toe first. Then tick that off the list. Then move on to the next stage and do exactly as you are told. Do not veer off at all. And you won't go wrong. You won't. Don't panic, don't try and do it too quickly. Just take your time and enjoy it. Maybe, you know, don't do it when you've got 3 kids running around and you're expecting somebody to call on the door, you know, and fix your washing machine or whatever, and then have this, that and the other going on. Just find yourself a quiet hour, get started, establish the familiarity, blah blah blah, and it will be a breeze, I guarantee it. It's not watch your favourite movie and just crochet away without looking. You do have to concentrate, but the results are worth it. It's fabulous, I love it, but I'm gonna have to frog this. It's too big. because I didn't do exactly what Deanne told me, even though I was supposed to. And so I did not get a ruler out and measure a certain bit of my foot that I was supposed to. I was told to measure my foot to a certain length, to a certain mark. I was supposed to do that. I didn't. I just went, yeah, that looks about that sort of width or length, and that'll do. Don't do that, because you'll end up with a sock that's too long. My sock is too long because I didn't measure properly. So I'm about 2 centimetres too long, and I'm going to have to frog it to, well, I could frog it to about here. Probably. And be all right. But my gauge is also different, and I didn't measure gauge until I'd finished the sock. And so they're not massively too big around the ankle, but they are just a little bit loose, that's all. A little bit loose. And if I were to wear them sort of, I haven't actually tried them on with shoes yet, but I thought they would make quite a nice sock from putting in my wellies. I wanted to try and find some, not invisible wellies, see-through wellies, so you could see the sock, but the shop I found them at, they were sold out. But I thought that would be a really good idea. So I could either frog it back to about here and just do this bit again, or just start from scratch and then maybe do the size smaller because of the gauge. My gauge is, I mean, I'm such a loose crocheter. I'd already gone down half a hook size because I know I'm a loose crocheter. But I think maybe I haven't decided if I'd benefit from going down to the smaller size. I don't want to do it all again and find out they're too small. That's the only thing, and that's one of my issues about socks, is that you do have to be quite accurate. But as I said, if you do as you're told and you measure your foot properly, if you haven't got a stupidly oversized gauge and you actually own a tape measure, then you can't go far wrong. Does that make sense? I hope so. I don't want to do that pattern an injustice because I think it's marvellous. It's just the techniques involved in making the heel, for example, are amazing. They're just, I was so impressed with how it comes together. I've never made a heel like that before because I've only ever made one sort of heel. This one, it was like sophisticated, not sort of ham-fisted like I'm used to. It's impressive that you can do these things with crochet. Amazing. And loads of people said they look like knitted socks as well. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of people prefer knitted socks, don't they? But we are trying to highlight crochet for crochet's sake, not for being disguised as knitted. To me, they look crochet. They're crochet. And they're gorgeous. So these are the Segway socks. And if you want to make yourself any pair of socks at all, make it this pair. Because they're awesome. Right, that's enough gushing. Enough gushing about that. And then works in progress. Firstly is one I started yesterday. Another kind of spontaneous, oh yeah, I'm just going to make that. I'll just make it just because I want to. Born from the fact that I have got loads of this Aran weight yarn left over from my own socks. I bought all of this from Hobbycraft, and it is leader of the pack, an alpaca Aran. I've got so much left from my socks, obviously because there's like a million balls of it, that I've started making some mitts, which I haven't got to the thumb bit yet. That's coming. So I'm going to make my thumb balls. It's all coming undone. Make my thumb. That'll be green up to there, and then mustard, but it's very much a work in progress. I am making it up as I go along, and I'm hoping that this will become a tutorial on YouTube at some point, as maybe the socks. Thinking out loud there. Or I might abandon them if I go off the idea, I don't know. Then, so if I make a pair of mitts, get it sorted and make it a bit better. There's a bit scruffy at the moment. I'll have enough left over to do a scarf or something as well. Or I could do a hat, or there's loads left over, I could do all sorts. As you can tell, I don't exactly know where that's going, but that yarn is really nice and soft. It's warm on my feet, and it will be warm on my hands too. And eventually I will have a mitt that will be finished and I can show you. So that's whip number 1. I didn't really want to focus on that too much because it's still like very much undecided. Whip number 2 I don't like. Whip number 2 is, it was going to be a bag, and as you can see it's got writing on it. I'm using Drops Muscat, which is a mercerised cotton, and I don't think, from making this, I don't like mercerised cotton for a crochet bag. It's, for some reason it feels quite bouncy. There's not enough, even though I'm using like a smaller hook size than you're supposed to. I'm using a 3mm on this, and actually 4mm is recommended, and 3mm is still not enough to get a really nice close texture on the C2C stitch. The mercerised cotton is too shiny, too slippery, and for me it is not working, and I don't like. Do I like the colours? They're not going to be me for this. It's not singing to me, and I think I might frog that and just abandon it. And it's really annoying because a few weeks ago when I drew up the chart for it, I was really excited. I thought it was going to be awesome, and actually it probably still could be awesome. It's just that that yarn does not work for it. What you want is just a normal cotton, but I haven't got any, not a double knit cotton, and if I were to make it in the Aran weight cotton that I do have, it would be enormous. I don't want a massive bag. It's such a shame when something you were excited about just doesn't work out. I don't even want to finish it to wait and see. It just feels horrible. It looks kind of cheap. I want to do it justice, so no. I'm going to work on a different bag instead, because I need to work on a bag. I've promised somebody something. I've promised somebody a bag, and that was going to be the bag that I'd promised them. So I'm going to have to make something else, but I might go back to my stripes. I'll go back to my stripes, and that'll be the bag, so that I don't break my promise. Okay, whip number 2. Staying with C2C, a project that actually is a bit more exciting, and I'm more enthusiastic about, even though I've abandoned it, but just for a few days. It looks a bit like this at the moment. That is all. Can you tell what it might turn into? Wow, I did loads more than that. I nearly finished, which is one side of a two-sided thing. I nearly finished, and then I ran out of this yarn. So I've had to redraw my chart to knock off the squares, make it smaller, and have it so that I'm not going to run out of yarn, because I'm not buying any more. I can't buy any more of this yarn because this is from one of the Knit Crate boxes that I got in the summer. And actually, I can't remember if I was not underwhelmed by it, but neither was I completely in love. It looks like that when it's caked up. I didn't want to buy any more yarn, so I had to make do with what I had. I wanted it to be a chunky-ish yarn because I wanted it to work up quite big. I will show you what it's going to be. In fact, I need to frog some more, so I might do that now. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be a stocking. I don't know if that's the right, I think that's the right chart. I had to redo the chart because the one I'd done before was too ambitious. I've got something in my eye, sorry. And I had sort of blocks coming in and going out all over the place, and actually with this design you can't have that because you need a foundation to put your next block on, and if you haven't got it you're kind of stuck halfway between. Oh, something's in my eye. So I've had to rejig the pattern so that that doesn't happen, and I think I'm on the right track now. So I'm going to make the main body, and then what I will do is do a bit of join as you go seam for the toe bit, so that I just draw where I'm going to join as you go seam. That tiny bit will be added on afterwards, as will this, sort of working this way rather than downwards, which I'm doing with the main body. I think it's going to work, but as I said, my first attempt did backfire, because not only because I ran out of yarn, but because I did mess up with my thinking that I'd be able to sort of go in and out with my blocks, but in actual fact no, you can't. You do need a foundation to build those blocks on. Right. I've got a month before the end of the cal, so I figured that I can leave this a couple more weeks, work on a few more pressing things and come back to it when I'm ready, and sort of when I'm over having to like undo loads of my work as well, because it always feels very painful when you're just sat here going like this and then knowing that all those stitches were a complete waste of time. It's a lovely yarn to use. It is, as I said, it's from one of the Knit Crates, and the Knit Crate they sent me this month, I think it must be the same base, because it feels the same. I'll show you in a sec. I think it's funny, this must be my, I keep getting Knit Crate, I didn't realise I was still getting them. I think it feels similar to this, which is the latest Knit Crate they sent, Ordine Wools by Knit Crate. Oh no, it's not the same. This one says it's a double knit. It looked like Aran. It's well fat for double knit. Well, that's surprising. 50% alpaca, 30% merino wool, 20% nylon. DK, you sure? Looks a bit chunky to me. Have I not got the labels for these ones? I could have done a compare and contrast, couldn't I? Due to my lack of organisational skills, I don't have the label for this one. But can we scrap what I said about it being the same base as this? Because I don't think it is. But that's my Knit Crate for this month. It's quite nice. Right. I've matched this up with King Cole Fashion Aran, which feels completely different, but it's the same thickness of yarn. Funny colours for a stocking, I admit, but it was a stash dive and this is all I had in this weight, and who's to say that Christmas needs to be green and red? Christmas can be alternative colours, can't it? And there's like a little bit of red in there. Pink, dark pink. You hear that dog barking? It's not mine, I don't have a dog. next whip, I don't know which whip this is. What number whip? I don't know. I'm making a shawl, and this shawl is for my auntie, because I stayed with her when I went up north, and as a thank you I'm making her a shawl. She wanted a shawl, she asked for a shawl when I think I asked her if she sort of, as a general rule, did she like crochet? And she said that she would love a shawl. I was like, alright then, I'll make you a shawl. This shawl doesn't have, I'm undecided on its name. Is it going to be Hinterland? Or is it going to be Nordic Noir? It doesn't feel very Nordic to me. But the styling in the magazine is awesome. Let me show you. Because it is indeed in the magazine. I am in the latest issue of Mollie Makes magazine. This is issue 98. It's got festive stuff going on in it. It's got, I love that stocking, and it's got some other, it's got some festive papers. And how to make soap, but it's got these, don't these look beautiful with baubles? But we're not here to talk about that, we're here to talk about this new shawl. See, they've said Nordic Noir, and they do spin a beautiful story at the beginning of the pattern. It really sets the mood, which is what Mollie Makes does so well. And the styling is beautiful. And so you've got the full written pattern, and then a terrible picture of my face. Why did I send that picture in? It looks awful. I don't suppose anybody cares. I was talking to my stepdad about it at the weekend, and he said, nobody's going to look at your face, don't worry about it. Thanks. So I'm making this shawl again. It's beautiful. I tell you what, it's very, very nice and works really well because it's quite a simple design. Use a yarn that has like flex or a nepp to it. Nepp's huge at the minute. Have you seen all the neppy yarns? Everybody's getting their Nepps out right now, and for a very good reason. And that reason is it's lovely. I love it. So much so that I'm going to design a jumper, and I'm going to get my hands on some yarn with a beautiful nepp in it. And by nepp I mean the little bits that are attached to the yarn, usually in a different colour, so like the tweedy sorts, and it would be like a little lump or a bubble sort of running randomly throughout the yarn. So in the magazine it's called Nordic Noir. I've already put the project on Ravelry, and I've called it Hinterland because to me it was like a mix between like a classic American design, but also it reminded me of like something you might find in Outlander. So in a kind of roundabout sort of way, I felt like Hinterland described those things quite well, you know, like a wilderness in the middle of nowhere, in the wild. I said wilderness, wild, you know, that kind of, away from civilization. So not that I'm suggesting America is away from civilization, but there are big parts of it that are completely naked of humans. Surely it's massive. So that's what I mean by that, you know. So I'm thinking like those massive parks, like ones I can't remember the name of, Yellowstone Park or something like that. I don't know what I'm talking about now. I'll shut up. Move on. So I'm making it without the Nepps this time, and it is not as good. And I can't claim to have suggested the Nepp yarn. That was Lindsay from Lottie and Albert. As you know, as some you may know, that she is, as well as being a crocheter and podcaster, she's the commissioning editor for Mollie Makes magazine, and she asked me if I would be interested in designing for them. And of course I went, yes, of course. And then, yeah, Lindsay had suggested finding a yarn that had interesting bits in it, because she's all about the texture, and it works really well in this instance. And this one hasn't got it. Although the grey isn't completely flat and blocky in colour, it does have streaks of dark in it. It's kind of mild, which is good. But this blue is just a flat blue. I've got quite a few rows to do with the border. So you have basic filet for the main body, and then linen stitch for the border, a nice deep border of linen stitch, and it works really well. I'm so pleased with myself. I've lost my hook now. The magazine one is King Cole Fashion Aran again. I just happen to have lots of that in stash. I'm using here Rico Essentials Soft Merino, but it feels so stripped of any natural lanolin or any real sheepiness left that it feels too clean and clinical. It's like there's no scrumminess left to it. It almost feels slightly plasticky where they've superwashed the heck out of it and made it slightly lackluster, I suppose. The colour's nice, but for a merino wool, I'm not impressed with Rico soft merino Aran. But that is going to be finished soon. No, where have you gone? Oh, making it up. I started doing the border, and there's a slight error in the pattern. I think something went wrong during the tech edit process, where something was changed. So if you're making it, and I know people are making it, for row 42, it says something about a chain space. Ignore that chain space advice. What you want to do is do a UK double crochet in the first stitch, not find a chain space that doesn't exist. If you need to know more, just give us a shout and I'll explain it. Found it. Right. So those are my whips and those are my finished objects. I think that's not bad going for a fortnight, is it? Done all right. And that's because I've got no commissions on, and actually I might try and keep it that way for a while, because it's so much more relaxing when you haven't got the worry of a design like somebody else's. Like you've got a responsibility to get this thing done at a certain time to a certain standard. It feels so much better. Just I can relax now. I've gotten the bulk of stuff out of the way, so Harvest Moon, boom, done. Havana Nights, done. All payment nonsense, hopefully a part of history. And now I can concentrate on a few things for funsies. And actually making this shawl is lovely, and it's really nice and relaxing. Just the kind of project I need. But in the future, my future holds several new designs, including 2 sweaters, 2 jumpers, both of which will have familiar themes. One I made already, the striped jumper from ages ago. I need to make a new sample and perfect it and make it better. And one I've swatched for that's awfully exciting, and that's the one I want to use a Nepp yarn with. But I kind of said that I wouldn't buy that yarn because I had shed loads of yarn and needed to make a few more things before I started working on that design, but it's a good one, I hope. I'm fairly certain you will like it. And funnily enough, over the period of about 7 days, this is going back a couple of weeks, over the period of a week, 3 people contacted me separately, as far as I'm aware, all saying either, when are you going to make a jumper, when are you going to make a top, and why don't you make this pattern into a jumper? And it just made me go, yeah, alright then. I think I will. But it's way down on my list. Way down on my list. There's so much stuff I want to do before Christmas. I'm kind of excited, but also trying not to let myself get overwhelmed because there's so many things I want to do. I've got a load of other works in progress that I haven't talked about because I've talked about them before and I don't want to bore you because they're probably not that far moved on from when I did talk about them. I've got a load of patterns that were in magazines that I need to release independently. I have got video tutorials I would love to do, but they're always right down the bottom of the list because they take so long. It's a lot of hard work, but they can be very popular, which is good. And the more people I get to crochet, the better I feel, the happier I am. But I've got, oh, I can tick that off my list. I've got several shawls, a couple of jumpers, bags, Waking Winter, which will be the sequel to Emergence of Spring and Harvest Moon. Waking Winter is the next one, and I really want to sink my teeth into that because it's going to be good. I've got mitts, not just those ones, but I've got another idea for some mitts. Shawls are plenty. A cowl with my Yarndale fabric, my Yarndale yarn that Claudia bought me. It's in my basket because I know it's imminent. And a load of other stuff. It crosses all of those pages. It's quite extensive. It's a big list. Right, so let's finish by saying thank you ever so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. I love receiving comments. And I try and reply to each and every one of them where and when I can, because I think it's important. Your support means a huge deal, so I want to sort of say cheers. And just like replying and taking the time to reply, it's just common courtesy, isn't it? But if you want to support me, buy my patterns, spread the word, comment, just say hi, tell me a joke, whatevs, I don't know, tell me what we've been up to, what we've been crocheting, and then yeah, just keep crocheting, please. Because there's nothing sadder than going up to your mate who you know crochets and you go, oh, what have we been up to recently? Nothing, I haven't made anything for weeks. It's so sad. On that note, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you to those that have bought the patterns as well. Thank you so much, honestly. It gives me a thrill each time I get an email notification to say that somebody has bought a pattern. It's awesome. Right, I am off now. I'll see you later. Bye.